The sun had just begun to rise over the dusty village of Miraculous, painting the sky in soft shades of gold and pink. The air smelled of dry earth and smoke from early cooking fires. 5 friends, Aminu, Salma, Yusuf, Mariam, and Daniel, were walking along the narrow path that led from their small village to the neighboring town. They were carrying baskets of food, happy to share with people who had little. Their laughter echoed in the quiet morning, and even the birds seemed to join them, singing songs of life and hope. Suddenly, the happiness in the air vanished. From the hills, dark shadows appeared. 5 masked men on motorcycles came roaring toward them, shouting harsh words in a language that made the children of the village tremble. Aminu froze. Salma clutched Mariam's hand. Yusuf tried to stand tall, but fear made his legs shake. The bandits circled them, and in a few moments, all 5 friends were grabbed. The motorcycles sped away, leaving behind only the sound of the wind and the faint cries of villagers who had watched in horror. Inside the dark forest, the friends were tied together and thrown onto the cold, hard ground. The bandits laughed, their voices cruel and sharp. Mariam trembled, tears rolling down her face, and whispered a prayer, "Jesus, please help us. Don't let them hurt us." Daniel tried to comfort her, even though he felt panic clawing at his chest. He looked at Aminu, who was pale and silent, staring at the trees as if they held the answers to escape. Hours passed. The bandits argued among themselves, their voices echoing through the trees, and the friends tried to plan an escape. But every time they moved, the ropes dug into their skin, reminding them that freedom seemed impossible. Salma's voice cracked as she said, "I don't think we will see home again." Yusuf shook his head fiercely, refusing to give up. "We have to trust God," he said. "He can save us. He will." The night came, and with it, a heavy silence. The forest was dark, filled with strange sounds, the rustling of leaves, the calls of distant animals, and the occasional laughter of the bandits. The 5 friends huddled together, shivering not only from the cold but also from fear. Mariam whispered stories of miracles she had heard from her grandmother, tales of people who had been saved when all hope seemed gone. Each story made them hold on a little tighter to hope, like a small flame in the darkness. Then, just when despair seemed to settle in like a shadow over their hearts, something impossible began to happen. Aminu, who had been silently praying, felt a warmth in his chest, as if an invisible hand had wrapped around him. The ropes that bound them suddenly loosened. They looked at each other in shock, unable to believe their eyes. Daniel touched his wrists. He could move. Salma blinked, and the ropes on her hands fell to the ground without a sound. Yusuf whispered, Is this real?" Mariam looked around the forest, feeling a strange calm. "Jesus," she breathed, "you have not abandoned us." Outside, the wind shifted, rustling the leaves in a way that sounded almost like whispers, guiding them along a hidden path. They rose quietly, hearts pounding with a mixture of fear and excitement. The bandits, sleeping in their campfire glow, were unaware that the friends had freed themselves. Aminu led the way, trusting the strange, gentle pull of the path. Step by step, the 5 friends moved through the trees, their feet barely making a sound. Every snap of a twig made them jump, but they pressed on, believing in something greater than the fear around them. Hours passed, but the forest seemed to welcome them, and just before dawn, they emerged onto a small dirt road. In the distance, the first lights of a town appeared. The friends ran, tears streaming down their faces, joy mixing with exhaustion. When they reached the village, they were greeted with cries of relief. Parents hugged their children tightly. Neighbors wept at seeing them alive. Aminu, Salma, Yusuf, Mariam, and Daniel fell to their knees in the dust, giving thanks to the one who had saved them. No one spoke for a long time, but in the silence, everyone felt the power of what had happened. 5 lives had been held by fear, yet they had been delivered by faith, courage, and something beyond human understanding. That day, the story of their escape spread through Miraculous and beyond. It was told and retold, not just as a tale of survival, but as proof that even in the darkest moments, hope could shine. And in the hearts of the 5 friends, a fire of gratitude and belief burned brighter than ever before, a reminder that love and faith could conquer even the most terrifying night. The 5 friends thought they were finally safe after reaching the village, but the morning sun brought a new kind of fear. Word had spread quickly about their escape, and soon, Everyone was whispering that the bandits might come back. Aminu, Salma, Yusuf, Miriam, and Daniel sat together in a small hut, hearts still racing from the night in the forest. Their hands shook, and their voices trembled as they tried to make sense of what had happened. "I can't believe we made it," Miriam said softly, her eyes wide. "I kept thinking about how it might be the end for us." She buried her face in her hands. Daniel put a comforting arm around her shoulder. "It wasn't the end," he said firmly. "Jesus saved us. He didn't leave us." Salma nodded but couldn't stop looking out the small window, her eyes scanning the horizon as if the bandits could appear at any moment. The village elder, a kind man named Baba Jibril, came to see them. His face was lined with worry, but his eyes carried a spark of hope. "You were lucky," he said, speaking slowly so the children could understand. "Many have faced the forest and never returned. But God has protected you. You must stay calm and stay together. The bandits are dangerous, but they cannot harm those under his protection." The friends tried to rest, but the fear and adrenaline made sleep impossible. Every sound, the wind, a crow's call, a creaking door, made them jump. By midday, they decided to move quietly to another village a few miles away, hoping to find safety and gather strength. Aminu led them, following the path he had prayed would appear, trusting the guidance he felt deep inside. As they walked, the forest thickened, the shadows growing long and strange shapes moving in the corners of their eyes. Yusuf whispered, "I can feel them watching us." Salma grabbed his arm. "No," she said, "we can't let fear control us. Remember what Jesus did. He freed us. He will not leave us now." Miriam held Daniel's hand tightly, and together, they whispered prayers with every step. Suddenly, a branch snapped loudly behind them. They froze. Their hearts pounded like drums in their chests. A man appeared from the trees, carrying a rifle. The 5 friends huddled together, fear threatening to swallow them whole. But the man stopped, looked at them, and slowly lowered his weapon. Aminu took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice trembling. The man's eyes softened. "I am Hassan," he said. "I saw what happened in the forest. I know who you are. You are not afraid because you have something powerful protecting you. I have been lost in fear and anger too long. I want to help you." The friends looked at each other, unsure if they could trust him. But something in his eyes, a hint of hope and honesty, made them nod. Hassan led them through hidden trails, paths that the bandits didn't know. He told stories of other villagers who had escaped before, people who had trusted God and survived. Every story strengthened the friends' belief that they were not alone, that Jesus was watching over them. The forest seemed less frightening now, as if it had shifted, becoming a friend guiding them toward safety. By late afternoon, they reached a small clearing with a stream. The water sparkled, and birds sang loudly, as if celebrating their survival. They drank, washed their faces, and laughed quietly, their spirits lifting. "We are alive," Yusuf said, smiling for the first time in days. "And we will make it through this, together." As night fell, they set up a small camp under the stars. Miriam looked up and whispered, "Thank you, Jesus, for guiding us. Please keep us safe until we reach home." Aminu, Salma, Yusuf, Daniel, and Miriam held hands, feeling a peace they had never known before. Even though danger still lurked, their hearts were full of courage and faith. In the distance, they could hear the faint howls of animals and the rustle of trees. But instead of fear, they felt strength. They knew that even if the bandits returned, they were not alone. Something greater than fear, stronger than weapons, was with them. And with every step they took, they moved closer to freedom, closer to the warmth of home, and closer to the understanding that even in the darkest places, light could shine. The night passed slowly, filled with whispered prayers, shared stories, and the quiet beating of hearts that refused to give up. By morning, the 5 friends were ready to continue, their bond stronger than ever, their faith unshakable. They were no longer just survivors, they were witnesses to a power that had touched them in ways words could hardly explain. And so, as the sun rose again over the forest, they walked forward, hearts full of hope, eyes bright with courage, knowing that whatever came next, they would face it together, guided by faith in the miracle that had already saved them once. The morning sun barely touched the forest canopy when Aminu, Salma, Yusuf, Miriam, and Daniel set off again. Their legs ached from the long journey, and their hearts still carried the memory of the bandits' cruel faces. But now, something had changed. Fear was no longer their master, faith and courage had taken its place. Every step they took seemed guided by an invisible hand, one that whispered, "Keep moving. You are not alone." As they moved deeper into the forest, the trees grew taller and thicker. Shadows stretched like long fingers, and strange noises echoed from every direction. The friends stayed close together, moving silently, listening for the sounds of humans and dangers that might be near. Suddenly, Yusuf stopped and pointed. Ahead, in the clearing, they saw smoke curling into the sky. Their hearts raced. Could it be another group of bandits? Or worse? "Stay calm," Aminu whispered, holding back panic. "We trust Jesus. He has saved us before. He will save us again." Miriam clutched his arm, her eyes wide with fear. Salma swallowed hard and nodded. They crept closer, staying hidden behind thick bushes. As they got nearer, they saw the source of the smoke, a small camp, but no bandits. Instead, a woman was sitting beside a fire, tending to a small child. The friends looked at each other in surprise. "She's alone," Miriam said softly. "Maybe she needs help too." Aminu nodded. They stepped into the clearing slowly, hands raised to show they meant no harm. The woman looked up, startled, but her eyes softened when she saw the children. "You are lost," she said gently. "Come, sit by the fire. Eat, rest. You have been through much." The friends hesitated for only a moment before joining her. The woman gave them bread and water, and, for the first time in days, they felt comfort. While they ate, the woman told them her story. Her name was Aisha, and she had been hiding from the same bandits who had captured the 5 friends. "They are cruel," she said. "They take people, burn villages, and leave nothing behind. But you have something that they cannot touch. You have courage and faith." Miriam's eyes filled with tears. "We have Jesus," she whispered. "He saved us. He is always with us." Aisha smiled. "Then you are truly blessed," she said. "But listen carefully. The path ahead is dangerous. The bandits know this forest well. They will try to catch anyone who escapes. You must move quickly, and you must trust the guidance of God." The friends nodded, feeling a mixture of fear and determination. As they prepared to leave, the child playing near the fire toddled over to them, holding a small wooden cross. "Take this," the child said, looking at them with serious eyes. "It will remind you of protection." Yusuf took it gently and smiled. "Thank you," he said. "We will remember." They moved quietly, following the narrow trails that Aisha had shown them. But the forest seemed to change around them. The trees twisted into shapes that made the shadows look like faces. Every sound made them jump. A branch breaking, a bird cawing, the distant roar of an animal. Yet with every step, they felt a calm presence guiding them forward, a warmth that made fear melt like ice in the sun. Suddenly, they heard voices shouting behind them. The bandits had found their trail. Aminu's heart pounded. "Run!" he shouted. The friends sprinted, branches whipping their faces, roots trying to trip them, but they did not stop. They ran faster than they ever had, not knowing where they would end up, only trusting that they would survive. The bandits' shouts grew louder, closer. One of the masked men appeared ahead, blocking their path. Daniel froze, but Aminu grabbed his hand. "Don't stop. Trust him," he whispered. With that, they ran around him, finding a narrow path that the bandit could not follow. The forest seemed to part for them, guiding them like an invisible hand. Exhausted and scared, they finally reached the edge of the forest as night fell. Before them lay a small village, lights glowing warmly through the trees. The friends collapsed in relief, hearts pounding, tears streaming down their faces. They had made it through the forest again, through danger that seemed impossible to survive, and yet they were alive. That night, they prayed together under the stars. "Thank you, Jesus," Miriam whispered. "You did not leave us. You kept us safe. Please continue to guide us home." Yusuf nodded, clutching the small wooden cross from the child. "We have seen miracles," he said, "and we will never forget them." The forest behind them was dark and full of danger, but the 5 friends had learned something stronger than fear. Courage, faith, and the invisible guidance of God could carry them through anything. and though they were tired, they knew that the journey was not over. They were closer to home, closer to safety, and closer to understanding the power that had already saved them twice. The 5 friends walked quietly through the early morning mist, their bodies still sore from the night in the forest. The village lights behind them faded into the distance, leaving only the sound of their footsteps and the occasional rustle of the trees. Aminu led the way, his eyes scanning every shadow, every movement, knowing the bandits could appear at any moment. Hours passed, and the path grew narrower and more treacherous. The forest thickened, the trees looming like giants. Roots tangled underfoot, and the mist made it almost impossible to see. Miriam stumbled and almost fell, but Daniel caught her just in time. "Be careful," he whispered, his voice shaking. "We are close, but danger is still near." Salma clutched Yusuf's hand tightly, her nails digging into his skin. "I can't do this," she said softly. "I'm so tired, and I'm scared." Yusuf knelt down, placing his hands on her shoulders. "We can do this together," he said. "Jesus saved us before, he will save us again. We must keep moving, even when it feels impossible." Miriam nodded, drawing strength from his words. Aminu motioned for them to follow as he led them down a narrow path that twisted through the thickest part of the forest. Suddenly, a shout rang out behind them. "There they are!" The bandits had found their trail again. Panic surged through the friends. They ran, hearts hammering, branches slapping their faces, roots trying to trip them. One of the bandits appeared suddenly, blocking their path with a cruel grin. Aminu pushed Miriam and Salma to the side, and they stumbled into a small clearing. But the clearing was not empty. A deep ravine stretched across it, the bottom shrouded in darkness. There was no way around. The bandit raised his weapon, laughing. "You cannot escape now," he shouted. Fear froze them for a moment. The ground felt unstable under their feet. Aminu looked at the others, desperation in his eyes. "We have to jump," he said. "We have no choice. Trust him." One by one, they took a deep breath and ran toward the edge. The wind howled around them as they leapt, hearts in throats, the darkness of the ravine swallowing their vision. For a terrifying second, they felt themselves falling. Then, impossibly, they landed safely on the other side, the ground solid beneath their feet. Their bodies shook, hearts racing, tears streaming down their faces. They had survived what should have been impossible. Miriam fell to her knees, sobbing. "Jesus, you saved us again. You didn't let us die." Salma and Yusuf held each other, trembling but smiling through their fear. Aminu looked up at the sky, whispering, "Thank you. Thank you for never leaving us." Daniel wiped his tears, his voice strong. "We are alive because of him. Nothing can harm us if we keep trusting." The bandits tried to follow, but the path was too narrow, the terrain too dangerous. One by one, the masked men fell back, unable to reach the friends. It was as if the forest itself had risen to protect them. Aminu, Salma, Yusuf, Miriam, and Daniel didn't stop running until the forest ended and they reached a small, quiet village at the edge of the hills. The villagers stared in awe as the friends collapsed into their arms. They were dirty, tired, and bruised, but alive. Mothers wept, children hugged them tightly, and even the elders shook their heads in disbelief. "These children," one elder said, "have seen miracles today. Only God could have saved them from such danger." That night, under the blanket of stars, the 5 friends sat together. The air was cool, filled with the scent of earth and flowers. They held hands, each silently praying, each silently giving thanks. "We are not just lucky," Miriam said softly. "We are protected. Jesus is with us, always." Aminu nodded. "We have faced death, fear, and darkness. And yet, here we are, alive. That is proof enough." As the night deepened, they finally slept, comforted by the knowledge that they had survived the worst. They had faced danger beyond what any child should endure, yet they were stronger, braver, and more faithful than ever before. The 5 friends had learned a truth that would stay with them forever. Even in the darkest moments, when hope seems lost and fear surrounds you, faith can bring light, miracles, and life. The sun rose slowly over the village, painting the sky with soft oranges and pinks. Aminu, Salma, Yusuf, Miriam, and Daniel could hear the birds singing, the wind rustling through the trees, and the distant laughter of children. For the first time in days, their hearts felt calm. The forest, The bandits, the fear, all of it was behind them. They were alive, and they were going home. The journey to their village was still long, but the friends walked with light hearts. Every step felt lighter than the one before. Aminu led the way, glancing back to make sure everyone kept up. Miriam skipped ahead for a moment, then ran back, laughing softly. "We made it. We are going home." Salma smiled, holding Yusuf's hand tightly. Even though their bodies were sore and tired, their spirits soared. As they approached the edge of their village, they noticed smoke rising from the chimneys, just like the morning they had been taken. But this time, it was not fear or danger, it was home, life, and safety. Villagers began to notice them from the distance. Mothers dropped their laundry, fathers stopped working in the fields, and children ran toward them, calling their names. When the 5 friends entered the village square, a wave of emotion swept over everyone. Families embraced their children, tears streaming freely. Aminu's mother held him so tightly that he could barely breathe, whispering, "Thank God. Thank God you are safe." Salma's father lifted her into his arms, shaking with relief. Yusuf and Daniel were hugged by their neighbors, and Miriam's grandmother kissed her forehead repeatedly, unable to speak. The friends looked at each other, tears in their eyes. "We made it," Daniel whispered. "We are alive because Jesus saved us." Miriam nodded, holding the small wooden cross they had received from the child in the forest. "He never left us," she said. "Even when everything seemed lost, he was with us." The village elder, Baba Jibril, approached them with a gentle smile. "You have faced great danger," he said. "And yet, here you are, alive. The world may not understand how, but God has shown his power. You were witnesses to his miracles, and your story will remind others that faith and courage can overcome any darkness." That evening, the villagers gathered around a large fire. The friends told their story, each detail met with gasps of disbelief, cheers, and applause. They spoke of the forest, the bandits, the terrifying leaps, and the invisible hand that guided them. They spoke of faith, prayer, and the miracles that kept them alive. Children listened wide-eyed, inspired. Adults nodded, humbled. Salma looked around the fire at her friends, her eyes shining. "We were afraid, yes," she said softly. "But we learned that fear cannot win when you have faith. Jesus protected us, even when everything seemed hopeless. He can do the same for anyone who trusts him." By nightfall, the village slept peacefully. The 5 friends lay on mats in their homes, their hearts full. They were safe, loved, and reminded that life is precious and fragile, but faith and courage can carry you through even the darkest times. They had faced evil, survived what seemed impossible, and returned home stronger, braver, and wiser. The next morning, the village awoke to a new day filled with hope. The story of the 5 friends spread beyond the village, inspiring people in neighboring towns. They spoke of courage, faith, and the power of believing in something greater than themselves. The friends had become living proof that miracles are real, that hope can shine even in the darkest places, and that love and faith can conquer even fear and evil. Aminu, Salma, Yusuf, Miriam, and Daniel never forgot their journey. They prayed daily, helped those in need, and shared their story whenever they could. They knew that danger could return, but fear no longer ruled their hearts. They had seen miracles with their own eyes, and nothing could take that away. And so, life returned to Miraculous, a little brighter, a little warmer, filled with hope. 5 friends had been carried away by darkness, but through courage, faith, and the protection of Jesus, they had returned, alive and inspired, their hearts forever touched by the miracle that saved them. Umari. In a small village in Nigeria, 5 friends, Aminu, Salma, Yusuf, Miriam, and Daniel, were kidnapped by violent bandits while walking to a neighboring town. Facing fear, darkness, and near-death moments in the forest, they were guided by faith and the protection of Jesus. Through courage, prayer, and miraculous intervention, they escaped danger multiple times, overcoming impossible obstacles and threats. Their journey tested their strength, unity, and belief, ultimately leading them safely home, where their miraculous story inspired the entire village. Moral lesson: faith and courage can guide us through the darkest moments. Even when danger feels unavoidable, trust in God and perseverance can lead to miracles. True strength lies not in avoiding fear, but in facing it together, relying on love, hope, and faith. The end.